of our garden areas has some very distinct challenges. In particular, in this garden is the L-shaped bed that you see here. It is framing a lilac tree, and the corner in behind it has basically been taken over by invasive flowers. We've lost the battle in that corner, but we have been trying to grow in this bed, and it's this year we started off with some lettuce, which did okay, and then we tried to grow some spinach, leaving a few lettuce to go to seed, and the spinach failed quite spectacularly. As you can see, the kittens use the netting that we use to protect the spinach as their own personal playground. The spinach did germinate, but that's as far as it got. And as you can see a little bit around the edges, one of the problems with this bed is that we were losing soil into the path. It was basically eroding away. So I decided to make this into a raised bed and to try the waffle weave technique because I figured we would have a lot of material to make such a bed. Among the challenges for this bed is working around that lilac that's in the corner. So what I wanted to do was to narrow the bed so that in the long part of the L shape it would be only 2 feet wide, because we would basically be reaching it only from one side. The other shorter part of the L shape could go a bit wider because I could reach it from both sides. And in particular, I wanted to sort of wall off that lilac because branches would overhang into the bed while I was trying to work in it. One of the things I had to do this year was cut away a maple tree that was growing up into some power lines, and that allowed me to salvage the materials that I could use for the upright supports for the wattle weaving. For the tallest part of the bed in the corner around the lilac, I cut support posts at 4 feet long, and then I also cut some at 3 feet long, and for the rest I cut them to 2 feet. After cutting points onto them, I debarked the tallest of the posts, and among the short ones I made a point of debarking 4 of the strongest ones, as they would be put in corners and holding the most pressure. The first priority was to work on the inside of the L shape, and I just used a hoe to level out the ground and pull some of the soil back into the bed that had started to fall out. With the shape of the bed, I decided to put the 3 4-foot lengths right in the very corner, and then have 1 3-foot length on the short side of the bed and 3 3-foot lengths on the longer side of the bed, and then the debarked 2-foot lengths were to go at the ends. I used a pencil point bar to put holes in the ground that I could more easily pound the upright supports into. I started off with a hammer, but that broke, so I switched to a sledgehammer. Once all of those were in place, I could use twine to mark lines where I would put the rest of the posts. I focused first on putting in the taller posts and making sure they were spaced the way I wanted to, and then I could eventually put in the shorter posts to fill in the gaps, and that left plenty of posts that would be used in the front of the bed. For the wattles, I needed something that was very flexible and quite long, and for those I did have some willow that I pruned away from some other power lines. The bottom ones were debarked so that they wouldn't spontaneously start to grow, but unfortunately I ran out of willow very quickly. The debarked ones on the bottom I was able to get in, and there were some that were not debarked that I could hammer in with that 2x4 that you see. But then I ended up using maple suckers at the very end piece over there that you can see, and some very short, very flexible willow that I found. I capped off the end piece with a stronger piece of maple that would sort of lock everything in place. I was able to find more maple suckers and even some skinny pieces of willow that I could use to add more height to the back and finish off the ends. But as you can see, I very quickly ran out of materials. After quite a bit of searching, I did find some poplar that I could use in some very good lengths, and that allowed me to finish the bed. As you can see in the corner, I did have to add more support posts to lock the poplar in place. The only thing is that I did once again run out of materials. I curved the corner at 2 feet from the center post, and I just kind of built in from the ends towards that curve. And here you can see I have trimmed all the edges nice, neat, and tiny. It took a while to find materials flexible enough to finish off that curve and also to add some height to that corner around the lilac. From there, it was time to fill the bed. In order to keep the soil from falling through the gaps in the wattles, the first thing I did was line the inside with grass clippings that I'd saved from earlier in the season. Once the grass clippings were in place, I basically dug a trench all along and pushed the soil that had been hilled in the middle against the grass clippings to hold it in place and to begin trench composting. I started by lining the trench with cardboard to help keep the weeds at bay. After hosing down the cardboard, I added a layer of old corn stalks, and then on top of that I raided the compost pile of our kitchen compost. After soaking down the previous layers, I added some leaves and gave that a good soaking as well. A couple of years ago, we had bought 2 dump truck loads of garden soil, and this is the last of the second load. It had been covered with a tarp, and when I uncovered it, this is what I found. So I needed to do quite a bit of soil sifting to get it to the point where I could add it to the bed. It took quite a few loads of soil to fill the top of the bed enough. This did not get a soaking at this point. After the soil was laid down, I added more leaves, and this got a soaking more to keep the wind from blowing it away. The final layer of mulch was wood chips, and after the wood chips were added, everything got a very thorough soaking. I wanted to get it soaked all the way down through all the layers as best I could, and it's now done and ready for next year.